Hello everyone, welcome to our Zoom about AHP BME Women in Academia. I'm really delighted to have this topic of conversation, basically because, as we know, there's very few BAME people in academia and AHP, and we really wanted to celebrate the diversity and inclusion, particularly as it's Black History Month and particularly as it's AHP celebratory week coming up very soon as well. So we also want to direct you to some really fantastic events that are at LSBU celebrating our BAME population, which can be found on our website, and particularly a fantastic poetry evening, which is on the 7th of October. Women in academia, and particularly BAME women in academia, is an area of great concern to us, particularly as you look at our own school within LSBU, our own division of AHPs. There are only 6 BAME members. So what we felt was really important to have a discussion about BAME AHPs in academia and to encourage any other BAME, OT, physio, radiography, if you're a member of the AHP family, perhaps maybe thinking about a career in academia. So without a miss, I'm going to introduce the panel. So I will introduce you straight away to Janelle.
Hello, my name is Janelle Roach-Jokes. I am a pediatric occupational therapist who's recently made that jump from clinical to lecturing. So I am a lecturer at London South Bank University, and I am a first-generation Canadian. So my parents emigrated from the beautiful island of Barbados, and they live in Canada, and I was born in Canada and then recently moved to the UK. That's for me. Thank you.
Anita?
Hi everyone, my name's Anita Redmani. I am by profession a therapeutic radiographer. I qualified in 2005 and worked clinically for the first 7-8 years of my career and then moved over to academia. So I've actually been at London South Bank University now for 7 and a bit years. I am, from an ethnicity perspective, I'm an Asian Indian. My parents are actually from East Africa, but they emigrated to the UK in the 70s. So I'm a first generation UK born. Yeah, so that's me.
Thank you. And the fantastic lecturer Mish, who is always on the Twitter, here in real person.
Oh, that's a good thing. Yes, hello, my name's Musharrat Ahmed-Landeryou, but I like being called Mish. My ethnicity is Asian Bangladeshi. My family, that's they moved from Bangladesh to Africa, and then we came to Britain. And that's my sort of heritage pathway into the UK. And I'm an occupational therapy lecturer here at London South Bank University.
Thank you. And I just thought I'd like to let everybody know that I'm slightly different. I am first generation Asian German, so and have a very mixed background. So hence why I think it's such an important discussion to have, but identify obviously as Asian. So first of all, I think I'm going to open it first to Anita, about what actually, what attracted you to a career in academia? What made you make the leap into academia, Anita?
So my story is all a little bit unique and interesting from the perspective that I followed a pathway into therapeutic radiography, not necessarily with the intentions to actually do that job. There were lots of different criteria about what I wanted to do when I went to university, and this was one of the healthcare professions that kind of fit all of the other personal requirements at the time of my life. So once I started working in 2005, I always still had an itching to go back to academia because I feel like I'm a little bit academically inclined as a person. So I actually enjoy learning. I do say that very carefully, but I do actually enjoy learning. So after a couple of years of working clinically, I went back, took a sabbatical and went back to university to do a master's in oncology, and then came back to the clinical setting. And it's always been that sort of back and back and forth sort of journey for me, is to go back into the university setting, do a little bit of study for myself, and then come back clinically and use some of those skills and the new theory that I've developed, learned over that degree or master's or whatever I did. But at the time, I was very lucky that I also had a manager at the centre that I worked at, who really recognised that I really enjoyed the academic side of things. So there was a calling for a therapeutic radiographer to kind of help Northampton University to run a particular type of study day. So she kind of gave me that responsibility. And so that was my first introduction to lecturing and teaching and etc. And I really saw that I enjoyed that, and I had a real inclination with students and student development, and I really believe that's where the journey starts, is if we can get good radiographers from an educational perspective out into the healthcare field, like, you know, we're almost there, we've done a good job. So really that's what it was for me. I'd hit my band 7, I'd got to that senior position. I really was at a cross point where I really needed to think about where my career was going. I'm a 2-year and a 5-year plan type of gal, so I've always got some plan of what the next are. And so I really had to think about what it was. And when I sat down and actually did I know this is going to sound a little bit, you know, pros and cons list, I do like them, really thought about what it was, what I wanted to do. And academia was a thing that really got my blood fired. And at the time there was a job going. So, and in fact, a couple of students at the centre I worked at were like, Anita, have you seen this in Synergy News? And so really felt quite encouraged by the fact that students actually liked my style. And that's where my academic journey started. So yeah, it's been a mixture of a lot of different things, but I really had to follow the thing I think I felt the most passionate about. So, and academia is that.
Thank you. Janelle, being the newbie at LSBU, what actually made you make the leap into academia?
Funny enough, I had an amazing lecturer when I was studying, you know, long time ago when I was studying, and she's actually still my mentor today. She's actually part of our family, and she's always inspired me. And I always thought, okay, yeah, when I get to X age, that's what I'm going to do. When I get to this many years of clinical practice, that's what I want to do. And so I actually had never really planned to do it sort of this early on in my career. I mean, I've been in pediatric OT for 16 years. And so, but I just, after, you know, working in the UK for about, this is going to be my 10th year, and going through the hiring process of OTs and how challenging it is to find pediatric OTs, I just thought, you know, and having new staff start and having to really train them up from the very beginning, kind of all the way through, I thought, well, instead of doing this for one person, I think I really want to help develop those clinical skills, those really hands-on type skills with students, and sort of help a broader base, and hopefully give them a base where they can leave university feeling confident and competent enough to apply for a band 5. I know those are really limited, but a band 6 pediatric job. And so when this came up, you know, my dad was like, oh, you should think about it. And my mentor was like, you know, shout out to Liz. I call my mentor Liz. Hello, Liz. But they were like, oh, you should really go for it. And I was thinking, oh, I'm juggling motherhood. And I really do love clinical. I love children. I love families. I love that hands-on, on the ground, like, work. And, you know, it's funny, somebody said to me, oh, you shouldn't do it. You shouldn't go for it. It's going to be X, Y, and Z. And I was like, yeah, okay. So, and I went for it. And it is sort of the best, it was the best decision I made for me right now, for my life and for my family. And I'm loving it. And so I highly recommend it. So yeah, that's kind of what it was for me. Yeah.
Wow. Mish, what about you?
Oh yes, I think in a way mine is a traditional trajectory in some ways. So I was in clinical for about 8 years. I went very quickly up the ladder because I took those opportunities that came. I was at that point the only ethnic minority qualified occupational therapist in the occupational therapy team. There were unqualified members who were had BAME backgrounds as well, but on a qualified level, I was the only one. And the interesting thing was that it was opening certain doors for me on a tokenistic level, and I knew that, but it got me into teaching student nurses, student doctors, physiotherapists. And as I was teaching more and more and doing less clinical, I realized that I'm not teaching the people that I want to teach, which is occupational therapists. No one's asking me. And I kept thinking about this and had conversations with my manager, who was really supportive. And I must have done up-teen CPD courses to try and support how I was teaching and delivering teaching on this kind of informal level. And then there's this tiny little advertisement in the local paper for London South Bank University. And I think I was sitting in the coffee shop and just, flicking through the paper, and I just saw it. And it says, masters would be, desirable. And I thought, well, I can't go for it. I haven't got a master's. But my manager just said, come on, you've been frustrated for so many years. Go for it. If it doesn't happen, it's the experience, and then you can figure out how to go plan towards it if you don't get it. I went there and I was just happy that they asked for me to come for an interview. I was smiling, grinning all the way through my interview. I was looking at all of them. They must have thought I was a mad person. I was like, happily doing my presentation, blah, 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 blah. And I thought, oh, I haven't got it, because they really not asked me many questions. And I left it. And I thought, oh, never mind. I'll wait for the feedback and then I'll move forward. And then that evening, I got a phone call saying, oh, we'd love you to start. And I was like, hello? What? You want me to start? And I said, but I don't have a master's. But it was very clear that I would have to start a master's as soon as I started. So, that's how I got in. And that was 2002 I was hired, and I'm still here. And I can't say that, that it hasn't been enjoyable. It has. It's been challenging, because I came, like Janelle, like Anita, straight from clinical. So we're still learning. Even, I've been here now 18, 19 years. I'm still learning. Every day is something new I learn from the students that I think, oh, I need to do that better. Might be a different way of doing it. And it's also helped me with my academic education, because I got to do my master's. Now I'm on a PhD program. So that side of me is being fulfilled as well as the teaching side.
Wow, so it sounds like a real passion for students, and a passion for teaching, a passion for passing on knowledge is key, really. So what would you say, what would you say to encourage other BAME AHPs to think about a career in academia? Why do you think we have so few BME AHPs actually entering academia or teaching into universities? And why is this, and what can we do? What can we do to encourage BAME AHPs to come into academia? Anita, what would be your thoughts around this?
I think specifically from therapeutic radiography, because we are an incredibly small community. So we're talking about a few thousand practitioners across the country. So I think the last count was maybe 4,000, something like that, across the whole country. So it's a really small number. And I really do appreciate the apprehension that even if someone felt that they could be good in the academic setting, that they would feel a little bit apprehensive about taking that step. So one of my biggest encouragers is, and I do this a lot, and the therapeutic radiography team is incredible at LSB, is incredibly good at trying to do this, is it just takes a practitioner to even show a blink of an eye's interest towards teaching, and we're up for helping them to at least come and develop a single session or to participate in one session. And I think for me, I think this is where the confidence came from, for me specifically, because I was given that opportunity so early on. I think I was only in my second or third year of my clinical career when I started. And so that still gave me a few years to really, really think about, think about academia and really think about participating in any type of academic activities that came my way while I was still clinical. So that when I did feel like I was ready to make the jump, if that was the decision I wanted to make, then I had something, some evidence to fall back on that gave me the backbone sometimes that you feel that you need. So that would really be my biggest recommendation. If you're interested, nobody is saying you have to make the jump today and you have to leave your clinical world behind and come straight into academia. I'd always say get in touch with the local university or the university that you're affiliated with from a trust perspective. Demonstrate that you have a little bit of interest in wanting to teach, and I can guarantee that practitioners would be snapped up. And especially because there is clinical specialism that is so active and that needs to be of the clinical time now, is so necessary for our students to get that experience from people that are in the field right now as well. So that would be my suggestion, is to take a really small, dip your toe in, see how you feel. If it feels a bit better, maybe give your foot a go. And also there is this big drive as well, and I don't know about the rest of you ladies about in your particular groups, but you know, about roles where it's half clinical, half academic. So, you know, those are just as desirable roles. In fact, you have a foot in both camps then, and you know, it's such a great place to be from a staying active perspective, but also developing the academic side of you. So yeah, I really just, as in, it's not just BMAE, you know, I really do encourage that group of individuals and people within that, those, you know, minority ethnicities, because that's what we're talking about, but also people that aren't, you know, academia just feels like such a scary place for all. And in fact, it's where the journey starts. And this is what's interesting for me, is because that's where the spark has to start for those practitioners to go out and be the practitioners that our healthcare system needs. And so we need those individuals that feel that passionate about it to be on that side of the fence. So if you are that person, you know, there is an institution out there that needs you. So.
Well, I can really feel the spark at the moment. You make me feel really excited at the moment. I think you made a really good point about being an all-ladies panel, and we are an all-ladies panel simply because there's only one male in our university who happens to be on annual leave. But I think it also reflects a separate issue which we can think about at a later date regarding the gender balances as well. So thank you for highlighting that point as well. So Janelle, what about, have you got any thoughts about that?
No, I was just going to say briefly that I completely agree and resonate with what Anita just said, that sometimes that jump from clinical to academia can seem like they're polar opposites, but they're not actually opposites, that they are intertwined, and they're very much, you can actually do both. And it's beneficial to many different people clinically as well as students as well. So I think it's not as separate or as different, I think, as maybe the assumptions been made. And also sometimes too, we as OTs, we work in different fields. There's so many different jobs that OTs can do and emerging roles, but I feel like sometimes academia doesn't come up in conversation as maybe an option. So when you're learning, sometimes you learn about all the different roles and all the possibilities and what you can go off and do. And sometimes academia kind of gets left behind a little bit, maybe just a little observation. So, you know, being able to have that conversation, maybe even in classes about what OT's role in academia looks like, and how my role looks very different from Mish's role. Granted, she's you know, the grandmother of, not grandmother, but she's been here a lot longer. Basically what I'm saying, you're the foundation. Get myself in trouble. But that our roles look very different, and you know, there's research based and there's more teaching focused, or maybe evaluation focused. So there's lots of options within academia as well. And I think maybe too, OTs don't know a lot about that either. So I guess there's a little bit more promotion that we need to maybe do, education on what OTs do in academia and how it can be beneficial to your career as well as to the people that you're serving. So
that brings me really nicely onto this idea of imposter syndrome. So Mish, have you ever suffered from imposter syndrome? Have you ever felt like you shouldn't be in academia? And how have you sort of overcome your imposter syndrome?
Oh, I think it comes in waves. Do you know what I mean? It's not there all the time. And then sometimes I think, oh, you know, I'm here and I'm going to teach about occupational therapy, and I suddenly feel like I've been in academia too long, and why am I teaching about clinical practice suddenly? You know? And I suddenly get that feeling like, am I good enough to be teaching this? Have I got enough information for them? You know, and that kind of feeling, even when I'm like currently doing my PhD, I suddenly get that feeling like, have I got the know-how and knowledge to go and talk to people about my research? You know, have I got enough information? And the way I get over those feelings of imposter syndrome is I need to go and talk to people and listen to them about the topic, and then I start to gauge, okay, you know, it's okay, baby, it's okay. You can do this. They're saying the same thing as you. And also to get feedback as well. I found early on in my academic career, I was very much asking people to come and observe me and give me feedback. Even now, I do that every now and then. Like, I've started on a digital platform. I wanted to get some feedback from my peers about the classes I'm, you know, delivering and the methods I'm using in those classes. Because even that's making me feel a bit, I guess, like everybody else, going digital and using it much more than I would has set up that imposter syndrome feeling. But again, getting feedback from my peers has really helped me. But can I just go back to that question about how to encourage more peers from BAME backgrounds into the profession? I think one of the things about going digital, there's a link here, one of the things about going digital is that I'm finding that more of my clinical peers are coming to volunteer, because what we're doing is having a conversation with, and that seems to be encouraging them to come in to the university and teach. And I'm getting more yeses than no because of the format we're doing. So that's quite interesting. I think that's encouraging them into the profession. So that's my link between imposter syndrome, digital platform, and encouraging people to come in.
So Anita, you've recently been promoted, have you not, into a new role? So have you suffered from imposter syndrome? Do you feel like that's where you should be, or how did you overcome the barriers to applying for the new post?
So I feel like imposter syndrome itself can either be debilitating if you let it, or it can be really quite encouraging, because it means that for me anyway, it means that if I start to feel that sense of, should I be here, I really focus in on what it is that's made me feel like that. So is it a certain topic? Is it the way I'm feeling, and therefore I'm not in the right state of mind and emotional state? Because teaching is actually quite a all or nothing type of profession. You know, as lecturers, you really put everything you've got into each of those classes that you do. So I feel like I really do have to have a little prep routine before I go into teach a session, because I know I'm going to be quite often have given everything I've got and walk away with very little energy by the time I finish that. And for me, that's normally a guide that I've done a good job, because I really have gone above and beyond for the session I'm teaching. So when I came into this new role, so I'm actually now the associate professor that leads apprenticeships for allied health services. There definitely was a sense of imposter syndrome. And I think a part of that was because there was no real framework or model to tell me how to do this job, because it's a completely new role. Whereas in the past, I've gone in and I very much favor the whole mentor, coaching, guidance type of, individual, that you find somebody who you really do trust and that you aspire to be like, and therefore they help guide and ease you into the role that you go into. And I had an amazing mentor, she's not there with us anymore, but this lady, Mish, you'll remember, Trisha Fowler, when I first started at LSBU. And I mean, she was amazing. So not only was she a great lecturer, but she, was the type of person that really rallied you along when you were really struggling with things at times. And being in a position where now, in theory, there isn't that person that really brought on that imposter syndrome. But what it's meant is I've realized how widespread the support, the encouragement, and the expertise that AHS has overall. And I think we do this in health professions anyway. I'm a therapeutic radiographer, Mish, you're an OT, you know, Janelle, you know, you all go into these little bubbles, but actually we're so much more than that, aren't we, as individuals? And therefore what we can offer our colleagues and the institution at large is so much more than that. And that is what I've been relying on. I've really turned to people when I've needed them. People have checked in with me more than I, you know, gone above and beyond to check in that I've been okay. Do I need any extra help? So I think that's really helped the imposter syndrome, because I've been able to talk through the things that are making me feel a little bit insecure or maybe vulnerable at times. But yeah, I guess if I wasn't in such a supportive environment, because it is the one thing that I have to rate LSBU for, is that it does really take care of its people and its students. I may have felt slightly different. So yeah, it's been a challenge. It still is, but we're just as it comes. Yeah.
So Janelle, being you, do you feel like you've suffered from imposter syndrome, or you want to run away, or?
Yeah. Well, I have my first lecture on Tuesday, so I we'll see how it goes. I think yeah, that's probably in every new role that becomes part of it. And I think for me, you know, as a clinician, when we have new staff, you kind of have to work them through a checklist, and, you know, you have to tick off that they have these skills. And once you're done, they feel like you're at that level, then you can go off and see patients. So you have that time to sort of figure things out. Whereas for me, academia was like, okay, you've started, here you go, let's go. And no, you know, it's a lot, it's new, and there's a lot that I will do before learning certain components and things like that. But I think you kind of have to push through, and you just have to be brave and sort of move forward and really let your passion show, and just, you know, that speaks, like, I think, wonders. And I think I may not have all the answers, and I don't actually need all the answers either. And it's actually not my job to give all the answers. And resting on some of those truths kind of helps to reduce that, a little bit of that anxiety, maybe a little bit of that imposter syndrome, because I don't have to have the answers, and that's okay. So yeah, I think definitely it's there, but it's not controlling. It's not stopping me from doing what I want to do. And I'm going to push through, and then I'll let you know how I feel Tuesday night when I'm done.
I think you'll have to update Twitter on that one, Janelle, about how it went on Tuesday, because I think lots of people will be dying to know. So it is AHP Day coming up very shortly, and it is a celebration not only of Black History Month, but celebrating us as AHP. So, Mish, what do you think your AHP superpower is? If you had to say, what is your superpower?
My AHP superpower, I think, a lot of the time is listening and letting people being heard, and that makes relationships grow. And I think that's a really important superpower to have for not only your students, but for your peers as well. Listening, hearing, acting, that's my superpower. And I think that's so important, because it kind of shows the collectiveness of our AHP group, because I think we're also one of the universities that has and promotes interprofessional learning and working. And I think that comes through when we talk about our individual professions as well. It's about now time to listen to each other, hear each other, and act. Very much so now, also because we're in this COVID-19 situation. We need to look after each other, encourage each other, support each other. And I think that's really important: listening, hearing, and acting.
Anita, your superpower.
Top that. Really nice, neat package. I think, and I know this is going to sound a little bit not necessarily looking for, but I think actually being a therapeutic radiographer is the thing that is my superpower. I think because I know I've had in the past lots of people say, how did you, why did you choose therapeutic radiography? And I'll be really honest, I think that the profession chose me rather than I chose the profession. And I grew up in this profession. So I grew and I developed, and my value system developed, and the morals, the code that I live by actually developed as I was learning to be this practitioner, this giving to the community, the service that I offer. But I think in all the years that I've been a therapeutic radiographer, a very proud therapeutic radiographer, I think the biggest thing that I have really, really learned is that compassion and empathy really have to just be at the core source of anything we do. And that's the way that I approach education too. Like each of those students, I know we teach a classroom, but to me it is 30 individuals, or however many people that are in the room, and each of those individuals, I understand I'm teaching you a 2-hour topic, but I understand you've got a whole life going on outside of the 2 hours that you spend with me, and all of that matters too. So like Mish, and I think like most healthcare practitioners, like learning to listen is really important, because without that you can't do any of this. But all of that matters to me. So really compassion more than anything, and really trying to be as empathetic as I possibly can. So how do we move forward from this challenging situation that you're in as positively as we possibly can? But yeah, I think I'm going to stick to being a therapeutic radiographer. That is definitely my superpower.
Fantastic. And Janelle, what's your superpower?
Well, it's similar. I was going to say my superpower is that I really have this heart to help and serve. I guess it's important to me. The individual is very important to me, whether that is the client or a child that I'm working with, whether it's a student that I'm working with. And I'm passionate about, helping and teaching and growing. And it's not just about anatomy and physiology. It's actually about who they are as a person and their life and their career as they go on. And so, yeah, I was just going to say that just having that passion and just being authentic to who I am, and as well, and being true to who I am, and having that show, having that come through, and having that sort of inspiring that onto other OTs or families or children, whoever it is that I'm working with. So.
Thank you. Thank you. So the superpowers are amazing. Absolutely. I love that. So the last final question really to wrap all of this up, which has been a fascinating conversation really, is this is about Black History Month. So, and we do desperately need a good representation of academics to teach a diverse range of AHPs. So I'm going to start with you, Janelle, because you are the junior member of the team. So what would be your top tip to a BAME person thinking about a career in academia? What's the one thing that you would say to them?
I would say that, so I'm going to use the term ally, but I'm going to use it slightly differently. So I was going to say, set up your team, set up your ally. So find a mentor, find someone that's going to believe in you, that's going to help progress. When you bring a big dream, like I want to do X, Y, and Z, that person will help break down the steps for you, or encourage you, or just really help to focus you if that's what you needed. But find your clinical friend who's going to also help support you. Find a manager or a mentor that's really going to help you grow. So that, yeah, that's what I kind of mean by ally, is finding people who are going to be your cheerleader, help to organize, maybe, your questions or your dreams, and yeah, move forward from there.
Thank you. Anita?
I think really what I would say is that we're in a really interesting time in history at the, in what's one day going to be history and what is our present world as it stands. And the reality is that the healthcare service needs those people. It's a service that we use. It's a service that our families use. And if you have an interest or an inclination to serve and want to work for the healthcare service, I would say apply to do something in allied health, because the universities, and people don't realize this, I think until you don't go into learning about the profession, you don't realize the support networks, that universities put into place, you don't realize how structured and supportive the actual university element of it is, and then how that can translate into your actual, you know, your career. And so really, I know it sounds too simple to turn around and say to people from ethnic backgrounds that we actually need you, because, you know, we have patients from all of these backgrounds that are using the healthcare service. And allied health as a profession needs more BMAE or people from, you know, less represented ethnic backgrounds. And I just think it's such an interesting time to get involved in these professions and ask for the support that you need once you do start the programs, because the services are there. So yeah, it's a really tough one, because for me it's like, just go out and apply. As soon as you get here, we're here to get you through, like and I know it sounds just too simple, but for me it's just like, yeah, please just put your applications in, because we're going to catch you the other end. And
Mish, what have you got any thoughts about that?
It's interesting, isn't it? I've been thinking about it quite a lot lately, being with BAME OT UK and our discussions with our Royal College of Occupational Therapists and changes. I think where we are now, I think we need to, as universities, you know, we say we're part of the community. I think we really need to act on that. So we need to go into the secondary schools where the students are starting to think about their careers, you know, university to secondary school, and maybe do some joint teaching sessions with their teachers, whatever topic they're teaching. And it's that thing about if you don't see, then you cannot be. And I think we need to show them we're here, we're everywhere actually, and show them that they can be this in this career, that they can be part of the university that's going to train them up, that when they finish they can also think about not just clinical but also the academic side. So we need to start sort of much more at grassroots with the children, and we need to show them that this university, for example, London South Bank University, is really part of the community, not just a building that enters you once you get those grades for university, but we're with the community and we're doing things in the schools, we're going out to the community centres and doing presentations. Just widen our brief a bit more so that we are present and seen. I think Senga says it about in management science, you know, you need to increase your presence to be seen. And once they see you, they will interact with you. Once they interact with you, then that's the beginning of change. So I think that's what we need to do, sort of get in there with the kids.
Wow, that's really inspiring, isn't it? I just wanted to thank everyone for today. I think it's been an amazing conversation. Just to let everybody know that there will be a follow-up conversation about allyship, which will be broadcast very, very shortly. So do watch out for that, as well as some other events coming from London South Bank as well. So our contact details will be alongside this this recording. So please do contact us if you have any questions. And of course, let's get the Twitter chat going.